Welcome everybody to Panfish Nation on with Mark. I am Lyle and Mark. We got a great guest tonight. Going to be a lot of fun. We've been trying to get Dawson on the show for a while, run into some issues, but he is here tonight, and we're going to talk about imaging, side scan, down scan, how he uses his stuff, how he sets it up, and maybe even a little live scope. What do you say?
Upside down scan.
Yeah, maybe. You never know. You never know.
That's when you hold Chad by his ankles and stick his head in the water. But it'd take an awful lot of people to hold him upside down, though.
What do you say we invite everybody in chat to the show, Mark?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hey, if you haven't spoken up, speak up so I know you're here. I'll say hello to everybody in chat here. We got some good people. We got Keith over at Northwest Pennsylvania Fishing. What's up, Keith? How you doing? Carmel Muncie. What's up, my friend? There's channel member Crappie de Fishin. Well, how you doing, buddy? There's Freddy's Outdoor Adventures of FOA Rods and Tackle. There's JG Hill Studio in the house. Joe Buck 66 is a channel member as well. Thank you for your support. Mike Sampson, what's up, Sampy? How you doing, my friend? Lyle's arch enemy, Missy Kennedy. What's up, Missy? P&B Catfishing, aka Paul Boyd in the house. Reeling by Faith. How you doing, my friend? There's Brad Cuddell over at Title Weights and Sinkers. If you need weights and sinkers, make sure you contact Brad. The great Tim Moline in the house, and Miss Uptown Chrissy Brown. How you doing, dear? I see Carmel Muncie just came in. What's up, Carmel? Let's see what else. Joe Buck, I said hello to. I think we got somebody else popped in here. Real and Virtual Outdoors. What's going on, Troy? How you doing, bud? Welcome, everybody, to Panfish Nation.
Welcome.
Should be a great show. I've been looking forward to this after seeing some of your videos that you made, Dawson. I knew you had a channel on YouTube that done videos, but I did not know that you was such an educational person. And the quality of what you do in those videos is outstanding as far as teaching people and telling them how to set stuff up and find things and make them work like they're supposed to. Really impressive. So if anybody hasn't checked out his YouTube channel, please go over and do so. I promise you, you will be extremely happy and you'll learn a lot.
100%. Let me say hello to Richard over at Fish and Freedom. He is a channel member. Thanks for your support. Also, Dan Thompson is a channel member. I think I forgot him. I want to make sure I caught him as well.
I hope Richard's feeling better.
I hope so.
Yeah. Dawson, the stuff that I picked out from your videos, and none of the big manufacturers are exactly the same when they make units. But a lot of the information you shared will apply to all of them from what I've seen. And that's kind of hard to do.
Yeah, I've been making the side scan videos and a lot of videos in general with graphing. That's definitely helped me be a better fisherman. And it's easy for me to go out and just graph and try to figure things out. There's a lot of times that I just go out and I don't even put on the boat. I go out and just trying to figure out what I'm actually seeing. And I've watched all kind of from Lawrence videos to Humminbird videos and just trying to figure out. And I found the best way to do it is just go out and try to sink stuff in the water and try to figure out, what I'm actually seeing. What's the limitations? What is it doing? Because there's a lot of things that I didn't understand. There's still a lot of things that I don't understand. But it's helped me be a whole lot better at finding crappie. And I got it right. And if Big Wrench is in here, it's sacrilege. But,
yeah, well, I tell you, taking your unit out and learning how to use it, for me, the easiest way to do that was to quit fishing and just fish with your electronics. And like you said, drop stuff underneath the boat and try to find out what it looks like, whether it be a skipjack that was this big on a hook or a jig this size, it doesn't matter if you don't know what you're looking at. It's almost useless.
Yeah.
You
And
have to know.
You know,
you're out
I got a good tip from the guys over at Russell Marine. They told me to go out without your fishing pole one time, which I haven't done to this day. I just can't bring myself to do it, guys. I just can't. But I did spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's going on. They're like, find something you see on the side, on the bank or the edge of the river that's sticking out, and drive by it a bunch of times at straight next to it at a couple of angles and start there. Get an idea of what things look like on your screen.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys are great. My first unit, I had a Gen 3 Lowrance that I bought from those guys, and they were super when I had questions. The owner himself, I even spoke to him on the phone when I was on the lake when I was having certain issues. So they're a great resource, no matter what brand unit you're gonna, whether you Garmin, Humminbird, or Lowrance.
Yeah, Justin's a Lowrance specialist, though. I have to say he knows about them all, but if you have a Lowrance unit and you get Justin on the phone, he'll have the answer to any question you got. He's a pro as far as it goes. And as far as being nice guys, they don't get any nicer. And the only reason why I'm saying that, I don't get paid by them or sponsorship or any deals from them. It's just they're that good to me.
Right.
And it's a reason to buy stuff from guys like them rather than these big box stores.
You're not going to get anybody with any kind of extra special knowledge at Bass Pro or Walmart or any of them places. Them guys are 9 to 5 workers. They don't care if they tell you the right poop or not. It don't make any difference. They're there to sell you product.
Right. And yeah, and Justin was who I spoke to literally on my boat, on my cell phone, when I was having a few issues, questions, and he helped me right out.
I just got off the phone with them when I was talking through some network issues. So yeah.
Oh, cool.
So let's start at the beginning. How have you progressed in your boat electronics from start to where you're at today?
Well, I started, just trying to figure out what I'm seeing and watching a lot of tutorials. And at first, I had it in my mind that, well, what I'm seeing in that black water column is directly underneath the boat. And then I started graphing boat docks, going by and seeing boat dock floats and the structure under the boat docks. If they were a community dock that didn't have a roof on it, those fingers that come off those docks on those multi-boat slips are tied together. Since they don't have a roof, they're tied together with like big 2.5-inch square tubing that's welded up underneath the water, low enough so the boats can go over them, of course. But I was seeing all this stuff off to the side of the boat. And I'm going, okay, well, this doesn't make any sense. So, obviously, me thinking that it's directly under is not right. So then I'm thinking, well, it's kind of fanning out. And it's, you're scanning the bottom, structure scan. You hear structure scan all the time. And people don't look for fish, but structure, which I do look for structure on a wide span. But then I narrow it in when I'm trying to zone in and find fish, whether it's catfish or striper or if it's crappie. So, and I just started graphing and I pulled up the boat docks and scan and see those floats on side scan and then look on 2D and it would have the floats. Well, it looked like a bunch of fish were underneath the dock too. And I'm going, okay, so I'd pull out the fishing rod and I'd start fishing and not catch a thing. And I'm like, that must not fish. And then I would go to the next dock and try it again. It was a long process of elimination, figuring out that no, 2D and down scan is actually picking up to the left or to the right of my boat. And 2D is a cone. We all knew that. Mm-hmm. 200 hertz is going to be a tie. And if you, but that cone is not shooting to the side. So something else is going on there when I'm looking on 2D and down scan because it's, again, picking up. It's taking that boat dock floats and it's placing them down in the water column, like if it's sunk. So, you're getting like a double ping or something going off, and I'm like, there's a lot of things that this thing is doing with these sound waves coming off these transducers that's not what it's, or it doesn't make sense. No, I'm not understanding why it's doing it. So I started, doing a lot of scanning and then looking into side scan and trusting side scan when I go by boat docks, not really paying attention to the 2D and the down scan when I'm cruising by boat docks or either running by the bank. So and I try to catch, I said in my video, that water column, if you're in 40 feet of water, you're not picking up the bottom or 40 feet out. And what I do so that I can see the fish easier is I try to catch those crappie in that water column. That's where
in the black on your side.
In the water column. That's not just directly under the boat. It's out to the side of the boat. So I've got my theories on what I really think's happening to it. But again, those are just theories, and I got a lot of testing to do. But what I do know is I can go by, and when I'm getting close enough to those fish, not going over top of them, still staying off to the side of them, I can waypoint, mark them, I can see them a lot easier. And that's the thing about side scan. There's some of my videos to where the fish pop even with the lake bottom being in the side scan image. Like you'll see them easy. And then there's others that you won't. If you got, for example, a hard bottom that's going to show up a real bright return, those fish are harder to see for me on my unit. And so a quick story, when I had a buddy of mine tell me where a brush pile was, and he said, I've caught crappie off this brush pile. And he couldn't tell me specifically. He was telling me the area on the lake and saying it was between like the first 3 or 4 docks. And so I scan it. And I call him up on the phone, and I'm like, there's no brush pile and there's no fish. And he said, I'm telling you, there's a brush pile and there's fish. So I scan it again, go back down the same bank, down to about 3 or 4 docks. Again, I couldn't pinpoint it, but I knew it was within the first series of 3 or 4 docks on the bank. And again, I didn't see anything. So I take a little closer swipe. And when I made that third pass, it lit up like a Christmas tree. And I'm like, well, there they are. And I couldn't see them before. And that's when I started really making multiple passes. When I go into a cove on my lake that I fish, the crappie will stage either in creek channels, running feeding to the back, like if there's a brush pile dropped in the creek channel, or if it's January, February, that's long lining season. They'll be out running in like wolf packs, almost like back, just kind of feeding up, almost kind of like they're getting ready for spring or whatever. And I'll take 4 or 5 rods and throw them off the back of the boat and pull up those creek channels. But they also will stage on bridge pilings underneath boat docks and then on brush, but not all brush. There'll be a lot of blowdowns along the bank. And I'll scan, and there may be only crappie on one particular blowdown along that whole stretch of, let's say, 150-yard bank. But there's multiple blowdowns, and that I don't understand. I don't understand why they're always underneath one particular boat dock or one particular brush pile. And they're not always there. Like, they'll come and go, but they'll always come back there. They'll progress when they start working to the back of those creeks. Like I was saying earlier when I first came on, our water temperature right now was 63 degrees. I went and did a little bit of fishing this weekend, and they're starting to progress and move back in the back of those creeks. And the fish that I caught were in about 25 feet of water, but they were stacked on a lay down coming off a bank. And then I saw some bigger returns right down from where I scanned that were probably bigger fish, but I hadn't hit those yet. I might go back and hit those later.
You know, what was explained to me by somebody I know who's pretty proficient with sonar is think of your side scan like a pyramid, and the tip of that pyramid is your transducer. So basically, under your boat is under your boat. A lot of guys have this misconception of where the black ends is under your boat, where the underneath your boat starts. That's not the truth. Think of a pyramid on its side, and that signal, like a flashlight, that radio signal is traveling out to both sides or one side, depending on how you have your unit set up. Now, if you're seeing fish in that water column, that pyramid is shooting that beam, that radio signal, or that flashlight beam, like some people like to call, underneath those fish, which is why you see them in the black. When someone explained that to me, it made a world of difference. That's when I started knowing what was going on. And I could take a guess at how deep those fish were, even though they weren't showing up on my down scan or my 2D sonar. So I figured after doing the math, and I actually have a piece of paper in my boat that I haven't looked at in like a year or so, but I could figure out if they're looking like they're 20 feet off the side of the boat, 10 feet off the side of the boat, that these fish are like 4 feet deep, they're 8 feet deep, and so on. Once that was explained to me, actually by the guys over at Russell Marine, that made a lot of difference, because I was one of the people that would think that where you're starting to see the bottom is the directly under your boat, and it just can't fill it in like that. But that's not the case. So that's my tip of the day for anybody who's taking their sonar seriously. So does that make sense to you?
It does, and I try to understand, like, I teach construction. So when I teach my kids how to build or a formula, I don't want them to just memorize a formula. I want them to understand what they're doing. Formula, whether it's calculating subfloor or calculating the length of a rafter or something like that. So I want to understand this thing. I want to understand what it's exactly doing. I would love to sit down and have a long conversation with an engineer that programs these units, is what I would like to do. Because when you hear that it's directly under the boat, my first question was, well, if it's directly under the boat and out, then why isn't the bottom projected under the boat? Because you're getting water column over the lake bottom to your left beyond the black water column. You can pick up fish there. It's not just scanning the bottom, you're getting in that water column, and it's fish. So if that's the case and that's how it's working, why isn't it picking up directly from the center line and doing a complete map, like a floor plan on a blueprint?
Well, that's exactly what I was trying to explain. Think of a pyramid laying on its side. That's the beam that goes by. It's not reaching the bottom until it reaches the bottom.
So 2D and your down scan is like an elevation, like looking at your house plans, looking at a front, rear, side elevation. You're looking at the elevation of it, so you can tell depth. Where side scan, you're not telling depth, but you can tell location. So you can pick out, where it is to the left of your boat or the right of your boat. Those of us that throw cast nets, how many times have you went over top of a bait ball and saw it on side scan a little bit to your left, throw that net to your left, and come up with a big ball of bait? I've come up with big balls of bait, and I've also cast nets on top of crappie that I released. It's illegal to cast net crappie. I thought they were big gizzard shad when I was learning, trying to figure out what I was seeing. So if I couldn't catch them, or I was chasing them and thought they were bait, I would throw a cast net. And then, of course, when I brought up 7 or 8 crappie in a cast net, well, I turned those loose.
Let me ask you a question. You ever bring up a bunch of baby catfish? That's a nightmare.
I have picked them up, and they've got the barbs, the little teeny tiny ones that are, I have done that, and you got to watch yourself on those.
Or I've thrown a cast net on a school of minnows that just barely fit through the mesh in my net. Oh my goodness. I'll spend the next half hour picking them out of there. What a nightmare.
Gar about that long is the absolute worst.
Oh,
Yeah, they're barbed like little fish hooks. I think Dieter's got a video where he had his finger. That would be rough. But
Yeah, he
but
cut that off.
but yeah, I brought that up is because, yeah, I used the cast net method too to see exactly what the fish were because I wasn't catching anything. I'd pull up on a whole bunch of fish. I'd throw that cast net out there thinking they were catfishing, and up comes some really big carp. So that explained to me a lot that way. It was kind of the trial and error part of it. So.
and that's what I did with the crappie fishing is I started fishing for them, you know, and then started catching them and started marking with my waypoints, distance. And before I had active target, I have the point one antenna that I can tell my boat orientation. So I could look at my map if I set a waypoint, and even if I was fishing an offshore brush pile, if I didn't have like a landmark on land that I could line up with, I could set that waypoint and I could cast to that brush pile. And so that's what I did. I've got videos on my channel to where before I had active target that I would set up, I would mark it with my side scan. And if it said those fish were 15 feet over to my left, that brush pile, well, I found out that it was 15 feet to my left.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would spot lock and then I would cast and you catch fish. So that's, it's been a long trial and error. And that's kind of what I've been doing, just trying to figure things out and see exactly, you know, what it's doing. But, and again, I've still got a lot of things that I want to do, that when summertime hits and fishing's not great, I'm going to do a lot of these videos to, figure it out for myself, but hey, go ahead and record them and put them up.
I look forward to seeing those videos too. They're pretty good. Even Richard from Fish and Freedom says he's watched your videos numerous times. So they're good at explaining a lot of stuff. We need more people on YouTube that's putting content out like that to explain it. And it's a lot of work. I remember the one video you had watching the one video that you had out there. We won't get into all of that, but you use the rangefinder at the same time, which was like a brilliant idea, if I must say so. That if that didn't prove your theory, I don't know what would have. So
That's right.
Yeah, that's and I had a lot of questions on that. I put that video back up. I just added footage to it because I was trying to focus with that video. I wanted to simplify side scan, and I was focused on the side, and I found that a lot of comments were focused underneath. And when I'm running side scan, I don't look at the side scan to look underneath. I'm looking at 2D and down scan to look at underneath. I'm looking out to the side. And one of the biggest questions that I had over and over is when I was saying, you don't pick up anything in here. Yeah, you don't pick up the bottom. I don't pick up the bottom.
No.
You saw that from my video. But I had a lot of people that said, well, how is it duplicating? I don't know. I don't know why it does it. But if you go back and look at that video that I put up where I rode by that water tower, it shows up the water tower, which was 34 feet to the left of my boat, 34 feet to the right of my boat. It started to put the image of the water tower there, like I split it, like it perfectly duplicates it. And I'm like, and I've had, duplicate bait balls, or something like that. And nothing, a boulder, a log, nothing in nature we know is not perfectly symmetrical both directions. Like if it split it, you're going to see it, but you should see it should be different. It shouldn't be the same. So that's what I'm saying. When it tried to put that water tower over there, and you can see it, it's faint, but I'm in very deep water. If I was in 20 feet of water or 15 feet of water, it may have put that over there on that other side. So that's still things that I'm trying to figure out, like why it does that. I have done other experiments trying to, figure out and see like that duplication. I've dropped an anchor. I parked my boat at a boat dock, my dock, and I dropped an anchor right beside my transducer. And it did two things. It goes straight down and it follows it dead underneath the boat. And on the graph, it shows it in a straight line. And it also will pick it up like it's going to the side, like that side is directly under your boat. It makes it look like that. Here's the thing, I didn't stop there. I took my anchor and my transducer is on the left side of my boat. So I stepped off the right-hand side of the boat on my 4-foot finger, my anchor, down to the bottom. Now I'm in 10 feet of water. So I dropped my anchor 15 feet away from my transducer. I could see my anchor sitting on the bottom. Now my boat's not moving. My boat's sitting still. I dropped my anchor right down beside it. And then I got back on my boat and I hit the distance. And it pegged it exactly 15 feet and showed it right there on the edge of the ground. So it's got a roll, it's got a double image, it's doing something that I still don't quite know what they did when they programmed this thing. But I do know that even in 10 feet of water, when you drop an anchor and I see it sitting there, it's sitting, my black area is going out 10 feet, and then 5 feet from that, on that where it's picking up the lake bottom, there's my anchor sitting. So it's and that's what I talk about when I say anomalies. There are things like that I can understand why it wants to kind of duplicate things like that. But yet when I do that and I set it off to the side of my boat, it places it right there exactly on that side, and then didn't duplicate it, didn't put it over on the other side.
Interesting. So I can't figure out why it would do that. All I can say is I know you did the one experiment where you tied, I believe it was some pop bottles to your anchor rope, right?
Correct.
Maybe tie a pop bottle to your anchor rope at every 1 foot, 2 foot increments. Drop that right next to the boat and scroll right by it, and that'll explain to you a lot how that cone and side scan's working, because you'll be able to see X amount of bottles and know how many feet down it's coming up in that black space in the water column.
And that's why that, because the two passes that I did that I put in the video, and I put the video up really before I wanted to put it up. I put it up because I had comments on the other videos of, well, your fish really weren't that far away. You got to subtract the depth of your water. And I'm like, I'm not seeing like that's not the case. So I went ahead and put it up without doing other things. But here's the deal. I put that video up and I was in 40 feet of water, and I suspended the water bottle on a tight anchor rope. Like I had a big buoy ball. I pulled it taut and I measured it out at 20 feet and I dropped it. And I passed it about 20 feet away, and it showed it 20 feet away. And then I went by it again at 4 feet away, and it was still 20 feet deep. And it showed it 4 feet off the left-hand side of my boat perfectly. Not as great of a return. But when you look where I passed the water tower, I show it 34 feet at the top, and then down in the water was 39 feet. It's subjecting and showing it slanted, basically. But underneath the boat, where I'm thinking downscan is picking up, it nailed it. It wasn't any kind of weird triangulation. It didn't matter about the depth of those two. I mean, that they were both at 20 feet, but it didn't matter that if I was 4 feet, it showed it at 4 feet, regardless that it was 20 feet deep. Now, the good thing about that, if you're fishing for fish there or bait fish, and you're seeing them on 2D or your down scan screen, you can look on your side scan and you can go, well, I not only know how deep they are now, but now I know that they're to the left or to the right of my boat. So that I'm going to sink some soda bottles over beyond that, where I'm saying that 45-degree comes in to that side skin's picking up, and I want to see if it skews it. That I don't know yet. That I'm going to do. So
now, the only thing that comes to mind with why it skews those images, because you got to remember, if it didn't, all you would see is that post. It wouldn't look like a post, and all you would see behind it would be the shadow. You know how they always say, look for shadows when you're looking for fish. That'll tell you if they're off the bottom, which is why it's not, sonar isn't the greatest for catfishing, but once you learn to read it, you kind of get the idea of, the grains of rice type theory, which has proven to be pretty beneficial for me. I think it's something that having to do with timing, or something to do with how they just represent whatever it's scanning in on the screen to give anglers a better idea of where they are and what's there next to them. There's no use showing that shadow behind something like a bridge pylon, because you don't know what's behind it. It can't show you what's behind it. So might as well use that real estate to define what you're actually looking at in your place in, your spatial spot on the water. That's the only thing I can think of, because I've often wondered why it does that too. Because it'll show, you got a bridge pylon that's straight up, but then you look at it and you're looking at it and it's kind of skewed like it's laying over. And that would be the only thing that I can come up with. I haven't asked anybody about that either. Maybe that would be something.
Hours, it does that with bridge pylons, but it didn't do that with those individual water bottles that I tied to an anchor rope.
Mass could have something to do with it too, because mass plays into anything whenever you're turning radio signals into visual subjects. So it could be anything. I don't know if Justin would be able to help you with that, but maybe if you called the rants and you could get like a level 2 support or something like that, maybe they could explain it to you. That would be interesting to find out. Those were just guesses on my part. I'm kind of glad that it does that way. You notice it doesn't do that when you see dock floats and stuff. It'll just show, like that white dot if it's something that's not of any substantial mass. I always wondered that a lot too. Even dock floats that are sitting on top of the water, it doesn't show a representation of those, if at all, either. The best you can get is the dock posts, and they always show up as like white dots on mine. They do not show up like you would a bridge pylon or something like that.
Now I'm picking up literally the floats of the dock.
You are? Okay.
I will pick up the float.
Well, we don't have that many docks like that over here too.
And
so
it'll be on the lake that I'm on. There's no piling docks. They're all encapsulated plastic floats.
We have that pesky ice to worry about, so our docks are probably, not many of them are on floats, because they got to pull them out every year if they would be. So
you still got ice?
No ice. We got snow though today, Lyle, thanks to that dockery. We literally got like 1.5 inches on the ground since this afternoon.
More coming, right?
I don't know. I didn't bother looking. I didn't want my heart to be broken.
Yeah, our water temperature is like 63 degrees right now.
Yeah. Mine was 35 degrees this morning, folks, water temperature.
They say it's around 50 around me, but I haven't been out yet, so I'm planning other things like Josh's bass tournament. That's coming up.
Brad over at Title
Mark's tournament coming up soon too.
It is April 15th. If you guys want to get in on that, I'm going to reuse my old email for my 1v1. So send me an email to the number 1, the letter V, 1 at catfishandcrappie.com, and let me know you're interested in being entered. We're going to get those rules posted up on Panfish Nation's Facebook page. If you want a copy of the rules sent to you via email, just say so in that email that you're sending me, wanting to be on there. But it's going to be pretty much an open panfish tournament. It's not going to be the size matter or anything like that. It isn't going to be crappie only tournament on my channel. It's going to be a panfish tournament, and we're calling it the Panfish Nation Championship, and it's going to be round 1 on my channel again, April 15th. So
Forward to that.
That's 1v1 at catfishandcrappie.com if you're interested. And just a reminder, if we're going to get more than the 8 people needed for the day, we will go to the green wheel.
Yeah.
Lyle loves that wheel. He likes to see people's hearts get broken.
Well, you know, I've never been drawn out on the wheel. Never.
Well, that's because they always pick
Green
you
World
before.
Junior.
That's because they always pick you before.
Maybe so, but Mike and I have about the same luck with that wheel. But it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Brad over at Tidal Weights and Sinkers says we use our baits to check this to check size to live scope view. Okay, I kind of got an idea what he means by that.
Yeah, that target that gives you a that can be very frustrating at times. You can watch the crappie just swim right up, look at your bait, and then swim right back down into the brush pile. So it's exciting sometimes, and sometimes it can be very frustrating.
I'm going to bring up that pesky 3-letter word, Lyle, ice. When you're ice fishing, back in the day when I just had a flasher, you would see the same thing. So it's nothing I'm not used to. You can get one to follow your bait all the way up until about 12 inches from the surface, and they just turn right back around, and they go back down to disappear, never to be seen again.
Oh, yeah.
Lyle, you want to address Missy's question for you there? She's asking, Mark, is Lyle fishing on my day?
I already did. I said, yes, Missy.
Ooh.
Yes, I am. Hey, Sean T, welcome. But yeah, flashers is where it all started for me, and then I never had a paper graph. I don't think I could ever got along with a paper graph, but I had to think everything else up to date, up to what's available right now, and some of them I liked really well, and others I didn't. I know that Dawson gets along really good with Lowrance. I never did like them. I had one, hated it from the second I turned it on. It was the biggest piece of crap I ever owned in my life. It might
Lyle, be nice to our guest.
Might have just been a bad one. I don't know, but
No.
like I say, it would go blank, and maybe it'd come on. Maybe it would. Maybe it'd come on for a month in a row. Maybe it'd be out for a month in a row and it didn't work. I mean, you send it in, they said there's nothing wrong with it. Check all the wires and continuity with meters, and it just was not consistent. And from that point on, I went back to Humminbird and never looked back. And I don't care what's on the market today, I'll never buy anything else, because if I do have a problem, I can contact them and they'll walk me through it. And they're right, and at those days, the boys that you're talking about out in Kansas, Mark, never had heard of them. Didn't know anything about them. Now they might have been able to help me fix that thing, but even Doc Lang's the most knowledgeable Lowrance person I've ever been in a boat with, and he couldn't explain it.
You know who's really good with his Lowrance? Brandon Cross.
Oh, I bet so.
He loves his Lowrance units. He's got 2 of them now on his boat, I believe, and he's real happy with them. I also know that my good friend Violet Talley, who I've had on my show, you've talked to Violet in the past. Mm-hmm. She's sponsored by Lowrance, and she's real happy with it. So it's all what you're used to using, and they've probably come a long way since you used them. Now back to the paper graphs as far as that goes. One of my mentors and good friend of ours, God rest his soul, Edward Zink, he used paper graphs on Lake Michigan. He would come home. I remember him coming home with a cooler full of salmon and rolls of paper laying on the floor.
I think one of them would have been very intriguing now. At the time, I was not interested in them. But, that's like side scan when they first come out with it. I didn't want to spend the money for side scan, but once I got one, to me, that's the greatest invention ever for graphs of any kind. A side scan is just phenomenal. I find more fish and more bait fish with that than anything on the that I've ever used. Now, granted, I've never had live scope, but and I think that it would work okay. Thank you so much, Wayne. But I think that side scan is the bee's knees, man. I really like it.
Yeah, well, these are Lowrance and having the active target, which is basically Lowrance's version of Garmin's live scope.
Right.
And if I could only have one, give me a side scan.
Yeah.
It helps me find fish. I don't look for fish. Like I'll zone in and try to come right across a brush pile, and once I lock onto them, but finding them because I have to do a lot of searching. Like there's the lake that I'm on. It's clear, it's deep. Fish can be hard to catch. They're not stacked. There's not a ton of bait. And I've been on the Tennessee River, and I was like, and I couldn't believe, wow, I cannot believe all the bait and all the life that's in that river, because that was the first time I'd ever been on a river, and that was starting the school year. I went up there and did some skipjack fishing for the very first time, and caught a few, but no, I would definitely, 2D down scan, give me side scan. Side scan, yeah. I can.
Yeah, I'm the same way, and I found an image the other day. I just happened to be scrolling down of Hummingbird's version of LiveScope, and I shared it with Mark and a few other people because in my mind, everything that I've seen of any brand on the market today, and it's the only one that I've seen that was like this. It was the most clear image I've ever seen with that type of knowledge. Now, will they ever get it again? Maybe not. I don't know. But that particular one was really, really good. And I know a lot of these guys take pictures and put them out there, and some of them are really good and some of them are not. But some of that's not the unit, it's the guy taking the picture.
and the guy putting the settings on the unit too.
That's exactly right.
That has more to do with anything. Do you find yourself changing your settings every time you go out, Dawson?
I will tweak it. I definitely will. And I will tweak between color palettes.
Me too.
Some color palettes will be brighter. And then I leave my sensitivity, or they call it contrast, Lowrance does, not sensitivity on side scan. I will turn it down. I'll leave it on auto, but I can do like auto -1, auto -2, or either auto +1, auto +2. Right. I'll do that, but I don't do an auto range. Like I'm either scanning out to 150 feet, trying to find brush structure, either a creek channel, and then I bring it into 60 or 80 feet and then pass it and scan it that way. But
here's something that I do that a lot of people think I'm crazy about. But if I'm looking for bait or something under a dock, say crappie, bluegill, whatever it is, I don't go out very far. I get closer to the dock with my boat.
Yes.
20 feet, 30 feet max. A lot of times it's less than that. And those little bitty specks, they're this big then. It just enhances everything, makes it easier to see. It's just almost like adding inches onto your screen.
Exactly. So if you turn that range down to 60 feet and you go 10 feet away from a boat dock, well, most boat docks on 20, 30 feet, well, you're scanning completely up underneath it.
That's right.
And then if you take, like if you have, I got a 7-inch graph, my HDS 7 that I keep mapping, but when I put it on my kayak, I'll especially just do just a left scan or just a right scan to let that whole stream pick up instead of, because if I'm scanning the dock, why do I want to scan to the outside? I don't.
That's right.
I want to see under, or if I'm scanning the bank, Why do I'm going to pass it. I'm going to put that screen on there. So now you got a 7-inch screen, and you're looking at, you're magnifying it. And like you were saying, Lyle, you can pick up those fish a whole lot easier with it like that. And if you'll take, like, I'll do a split screen. A lot of times you'll see mine to where I'll have down scan up top and then 2D right beside it. I don't use fish reveal. Lawrence has fish reveal, and personally, I don't like it.
I don't use it either.
Nobody does that I know of.
2D, and I'll leave my down scan, and I'll compare the two. But on the bottom, I'll stretch when I create my screen, I'll stretch that side scan all the way across the bottom. I don't put it in one little corner, because if you do that, then you're really not seeing anything.
That's right.
You're so pressing it that you're going to miss. You're
Yep.
going to miss fish.
I agree.
I put mine at the top, Dawson, just so it's easy for me to look over the unit, so I'm not hitting nothing, because I've gotten pretty close using it on the bottom of mine. So that's just what I do.
Yeah, it would be really nice to have somebody driving your boat and you're just sitting there focused on the screen.
Wouldn't that be the truth?
Because I go back and watch some of my videos and I'm like, I totally miss those fish. You know, I mean, sitting there driving the boat, trying not to get blown into the dock by wind, you know, and
I think that's what grandkids are for when they're big enough to steer.
Yeah, I don't have any of those yet. So.
Well, I'm just saying, I do that.
I don't trust nobody driving my boat. I ain't gonna lie.
Oh yeah, I don't care.
There's a lot to learn with sonar. It's a real powerful tool. And once you get the hang of it, it's a steep learning curve. But when you get it and you get those aha moments, man, it becomes pretty valuable, if not a crutch. You know, I've been fishing for a long time. I keep telling, you know, people give me a hard time because I went out and I did buy that front facing sonar for my boat, which I haven't used yet. But I'm like, you know what? I spent a lot of time looking for fish. I know how to catch fish. I know where to find fish. I just want to be able to find fish in other spots, and I want to be able to find them faster. I want to spend waste less time on the water. So that's my reason for doing it. I'm not a tournament fisherman or anything like that, but I think I definitely put my time in. Plus, it's a pretty cool toy. I'm kind of a techno geek myself.
Well,
so.
you know what a winner is, don't you, Mark?
Yeah, I'm sitting right here.
No. The winner is the guy that when he passes away has the most
toys. Oh, that's right.
I used to think that I would always be the winner, but there's some people that's passed me up in the last several years.
Also, you know, I'm really looking forward to using it in that perspective mode. Now you'll have to forgive me for not knowing this, but does Lowrance have a perspective type mode on theirs?
Yeah, they do. They have the same mode.
The same thing. And have you had a chance to experiment with that?
I have.
And
I have long line on my boat, and I faced it out the back of my boat because I have a ram ball mount, and my fishing specialties mount hangs literally right off the back of my boat. And so when I'm long lining, I put it in perspective mode, and I could sit there and watch my crappie jigs, 3 or 4 of them. And as I pull them along the water, I could see the depth. Now, when I first started long lining, I had an issue of trying to figure out what speed am I going, 0.8, 0.9, how deep is a 1/16 ounce jig running. And what I would do is go across the sandbar to see, you know, at different speeds, keeping line size the same so that I could keep consistency, like not changing line, not changing anything that would make my jig as I pulled it through the water be at different depths. But I would have to pull it across the sandbar to see, you know, how deep I was running. So I'd run my graph and say, okay, well, I'm coming across the sandbar at 5 feet deep, and okay, my rod didn't bounce, my jig didn't hit the bottom. So this active target makes honing that in way easier. You're sitting there watching them run to death. I mean, and where they are. And again, you can watch as you go by a pack of fish, swim by it and not hit it, and you can watch them hit it as well. But yeah, you can pull across it and you can watch the jig go right by them, and that's you'll find out quick.
Yeah,
It can be very frustrating at times.
it'll be
It's almost
interesting to do that myself.
yeah.
That'll be interesting to do myself. I'm looking forward to it. I have this method for long line and for crappie, and I use weighted cigar floats. And I know for a fact that from trial and error that if I'm 7 feet below a weighted cigar float and I got it dragging behind the boat at a quarter mile an hour, I'm 4 feet down in the water column. And it'll drop a foot for every, or it'll drop 6 inches for every foot after that 7 feet. So that's how I've been doing it. If I don't have to do that again, I'll be a happy man.
No, Dawson, one of the things that in my area in the wintertime, now in the summer and spring and fall, it's not nearly so much, but in the winter, when you pull into the coves in Lake Ozark or Truman, you know you're on the bait because your screen turns completely red because that's where all of them are at. And you don't have to look around and guess where you're going to throw the net. You just throw it.
Wow. Yeah, it's
And
not
it's
like
like that every year. It's like that every year. You just if you pull into a cove and it doesn't do that, you might as well go to the next one or the one after that because there ain't none in there. And then you might run for 50 yards and then it turns light where there's only a speck here and there, and then it'll turn red again. Now if you're on the Mississippi River, it turns white. Them's Asian carp. Get your butt out of there. Because they're going to be in a boat with you shortly.
It's funny that you mentioned bait because out fishing this morning, Lyle, I came across a lot of winter kill. So
Really?
yeah, we'll see how easy they are to find. Usually it takes them like the whole year to recover from that, and then they're usually small afterwards. But I saw some good sized shad I washed up by the bank, and
That's too bad.
they've probably been there for a couple of weeks, so them catfish are cleaning them up. But
Yeah,
still,
and that makes the catfish hard to catch. But I did see that you caught one today. Congratulations on that.
I did get one, like a 4-pound or something like that. It was fun. I wasn't fishing for them, but they're always fun to catch on light gear and a crappie jig. So it was fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't find the crappie. Like I said, I'm still thinking it's the water temp, but we'll find out. We'll go back out, even though it's snowed. Excuse me. Even though it's snowed, I'll be out there tomorrow trying again until they come in. So it's the place I do it at is literally 10 minutes from my house, so it's no big deal.
Well, that's not so bad.
I got to go get more stainless steel hardware for my install tomorrow, Lyle, and that's a block away from where I crappie fish, so it'll work out well.
Now, you were saying that you had snow up there. Do you have to do like Roger and ice, put salt on the ramp to be able to back your boat?
No, you know what? It just started right before the show. It just started sticking on the concrete surfaces and stuff. So I imagine tomorrow, if it warms up, all that stuff will melt. If I'm having to put salt on a ramp, right? That I might as well have a snowmobile out on the water because the lakes are pretty much frozen by then. So
We've had to do that at tournaments here a lot of times where you have to salt the ramps and just so you could get in and out of the water. Not that the water was froze, but the air temperature was cold enough that it would freeze on there. And you got 100 people sitting there waiting to launch. You got to do something. It's too late to cancel it at that point.
Right.
So we've done it a lot of times here. But yeah, I'm not especially thrilled with that. My name isn't James Dockery. I can't go out there and fire up a stove on the dock, take turns whacking the dock roof and catching fish. I'm just gonna stay home.
Jay's catfishing. What's going on? How you doing, Aaron? Yeah, we got about an inch of snow on the ground since about 3:00 this afternoon, Jay. So I don't expect it to hang around too far.
South of Chicago.
Yeah, he's on the south side, so I know where Jay's at. So
Cool.
It's that I-88 corridor here. It's weird. They'll either get hammered down there and we won't see a flake, or vice versa. So just the way it goes.
Dawson, I want to thank you for coming in and sharing so much knowledge with us tonight. It was a great show. I really learned a lot from you. Um, I think I learned more in your videos because I can stop them and go back and replay the thing if I miss something, don't understand something, or just want more clarification on it. Where in here, I wanted the folks watching to ask questions and get their questions answered. But if you haven't checked out his website or his YouTube channel, go check him out and do like I do. When you're not sure about something that he said, go back, rewind it. If you got to do it a dozen times, it doesn't make any difference. The answer is there. And if not, I'm pretty sure if you leave a comment at the bottom of it, he will answer that for you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on the show. It's an honor to be on with you guys. I think a lot of you. I've been watching. Of course, Dieter was the first person that I'd ever kind of come in that I found on YouTube, and he talked about Catfish Weekly, and then I started watching all you guys, and I've learned a ton, and I enjoy Panfish Nation and all the guests that you have on here, and you've had some really good guests, and it's just an honor just to be on the show. I really appreciate it. And
we had a good time with this, and I'm glad it finally worked out where we could get you on here. I'd like to have you back when because I see more knowledge coming out in the future videos of yours. And when you make some of them, and I'm impressed with them as I am the ones you have already done, if you would be so kind, we'd like to have you back on here and do it again.
I would love to. I've enjoyed it.
Oh man, it's a lot of fun. I hope that you did enjoy it because that's how we get people like you to come back and explain things. And the more people that watch and the more questions are asked, the more knowledge is shared. And let's face it, that's what these shows should all be about.
I'm ready to come up to the Ozarks and Truman and do a
Come
little
on.
fish.
Bring it.
I'll meet you down there.
Bring it.
You may also get a call from me, so I might need you on my show too. We might have you on this summer too. We can geek out and make everybody thinks like, what the heck are they talking about?
That's when you know you're doing something right, is when they don't understand and they have to ask questions.
That's right.
Oh, Mark, you got anything to close with?
Just tune on in my show on Monday night. I got Joey Jellison, also known as Chat Cats, on Monday night. I'm looking forward to having Joey on my show. It should be a good one. Other than that, make sure you tune in to Catfish Weekly right before my show at 7 p.m. Standard Time. The Bait Shop on Thursday nights, 7 p.m. Standard Time. Back here at Panfish Nation right after that.
That is correct. That is correct. Dawson, thank you so much again. We're looking forward to the next trip. Hang tight. We'll be right with you. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next week on Panfish Nation.
One last thing. Laura, thanks for being a member for 1 month here. We appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, thank you. All right. That'll do it, folks.
Last question. Lake or rivers? Both.
Yeah. Why make it whatever's available?
Squirrel, where do you fish? Lake or rivers mostly?
I fish lakes. I am right here in the upstate of South Carolina, and so I fish Kiwi and Hartwell mainly. So it's lakes, no current. Now I've ventured to the Tennessee River, and I thoroughly, but that was a real short trip. I got my Tennessee license. It's only 3.5 hours away.
Wow,
so I just got to go across the mountain, and I can be in Chattanooga or Knoxville or anywhere through there. But that I definitely want to go back to the Tennessee River. I would love to fish the Mississippi River, but just looking at that and hearing the stories and you guys talking about
bad.
People,
it's not that bad. How big a boat you got?
I've got a pontoon boat, so yeah, it's
no, it'll work. There's tons of them on the Mississippi River all the time, but if you're worried about it, you get out here, we'll go.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Missouri don't make any difference for me, buddy. I've been on them both. A lot. All right, guys. See you next week. Thanks for watching.
Sit tight.